move on Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. I am so happy that Game Freak is acknowledging some of the stupid exclusive events and these exclusive moves that some Pokemon have, and they're just turning them into egg moves because the Linoone event was pretty ridiculous. So the only way you could get it was in 2015, Pokemon World Championship Series qualification tournament in Korea or the Pokemon Jump Fiesta in Japan, and that's it. That's the only time that this Linoone has existed. That means you also have to soft reset for the nature. The IVs aren't guaranteed, and actually the Pokemon was almost not like usable at all until we've recently had the introduction of hyper training in Pokemon Sun and Moon. So yeah, you still have to hyper train it. You have to do all this stuff to just use extreme speed. But things get a lot better for Linoone in the 7th generation, especially in Pokemon Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. Now we can Belly Drum into Gluttony with a Confusion Berry, and that is going to be just awesome. Now, if you want to get extreme speed for yourself onto a Linoone, not really that difficult. Being in the Field Egg group, Smeargle is going to be your Pokemon. That you give Smeargle extreme speed. GG done. You breed male Smeargle with a female Linoone or Zigzagoon, and that's how you get it. Also, if you just have like an Arcanine lying around, Arcanine learns at level 34, or you can just use the move Relearner. So if you have any Arcanine or Lucario, move Relearner, extreme speed, and then you get to breed it to get extreme speed into Linoone just like that. Like, you don't need the event Linoone, you don't need to pull any shenanigans. There's actually quite a nice little pool of Pokemon that you can use to get it. Now, if there's one other thing I want to add to this, not related to the Linoone, but we're going to talk about the moveset here in a bit. We still need to see Cotton Guard Bayonet make a return. But I think the problem with that is that there's no Pokemon in the Amorphous Egg group that can actually breed the Cotton Guard into the Bayonet. So why not just make it a tutor move and give it to some other Pokemon, or just make it a part of Bayonet's learn set. That's just a little bit of a peeve I have. But now it's time to hop into Pokemon Showdown and break down what is going on with the Linoone. And I already said it earlier, guys, this thing just writes itself. So Gluttony, when this Pokemon is at half health or less, its maximum hit points, it uses certain berries early, and that includes the Confusion Berries receiving a buff in the 7th generation, pretty much meaning that you Belly Drum, Gluttony activates, and you're at full health. So that means the opponent has to tear through 100% of your hit points, or else you're getting a +6 attack, and then you get to +2 priority on the extreme speed. Now, unfortunately, Linoone is not the tankiest Pokemon, so it looks like we're pretty much just gonna have to max out our hit points, max out the attack, go for the Adamant Nature, and that's pretty much it. We should be good to go off of this. In the 70 attack, it might not sound like a lot, but we're gonna be quadrupling that stat. So our attack stat goes over 1,000 at level 100, and then we have like a decent amount of speed, like 100 base speed. You can run the Jolly Nature, but then speed ties, and we get into some weirdness like that. Also, we do have to sacrifice some of that precious tankiness, but overall, we're just going to be outspeeding most Pokemon, and we're using extreme speed anyways. Like, we're just going to be prioritizing and only going for that extreme speed unless it's a Ghost-type Pokemon, and that's kind of it. Now, another thing that happened to Linoone that's just a little interesting in Pokemon Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon is that it gets Throat Chop as a tutor move. So Throat Chop is going to be something interesting to look at, pretty much like a Crunch-ish kind of thing. 80 base power dark move, that's going to be nice against a Ghost-type Pokemon. Also in those interesting situations where they're using sound-based moves, boom, just Throat Chop them, GG, just like that. And then we can also break down some of the other things that the Linoone wants to use. Seed Bomb, Tutor, Last Resort, Tutor, Shadow Claw, that is going to be a TM. And Shadow Claw, also good for dealing with the Ghost types, but it only has a 70 base power, so we will need to keep our eye on that. And also just like Belly Drum Last Resort, while it does sound pretty awesome and pretty gimmicky on the Linoone, I just think that it doesn't really matter, because with that Last Resort, that's an absurd amount of damage, but we're already finding enough KOs on just the extreme speed, and the priority means much, much more, because 100 base speed is decent. It's so weird to say that, but I mean, we've progressed so far in Pokemon with all the Ultra Beasts being introduced, with all the speed creep that's happened over the last couple of generations. 100 speed isn't what it used to be, so it's alright, but it's nothing really heavy sweepers. So yeah, Belly Drum extreme speed, that's pretty much going to be everything about the Linoone, and then we just run the Papa Berry, and boom, good to go. Now, if you want to run a different kind of Linoone, I recommend checking out my Linoone guide. Pretty much, it's just like you can use Simple Beam and doubles for some fun combos, but the existence of extreme speed, it was just one of the most painful things ever. It's like, that's the best way of running Linoone. you can do so many shenanigans, just belly drum extreme speed, and now you have priority, stab, untouchable levels of damage, but it was locked away behind the event, and not even usable in 6 generation because of the IVs, but now we can actually make it work. So let's go and check out the damage calculations as to how this Linoone is going to work. So the overall theme is set up against a tank Pokemon or setup Pokemon or weak Pokemon, and you should be good to go, because right here, unfortunately, Tapu Koko, 75% chance to KO us with a Thunderbolt, and that's with our max hit point investment. So 78 hit points, 252 on the EVs, 61 on special defense, and it's not enough to survive from a Tapu Koko. And I don't think that Tapu Koko is like that common or that much of a threat to where we actually need to run the nature for it. So Calm Nature makes it a 25% chance to KO, so pretty much just flipping the numbers right there. And Extreme Speed is still a very healthy, very easy, very free KO. I mean, that's it. Like, if you already have your Linoone at that +6, pretty much anything they try to use that as a response that isn't Sturdy, a Ghost-type Pokemon, or Focus Sash is just going to get wrecked. And that's also why we can see that the moveset doesn't really change on the Linoone. That I did kind of say, well, we have Throat Chop, we could use Play Rough. There's these interesting things that the Linoone could run, but I just don't think that it matters, because if we go up against a Rock-type Pokemon, it's better to have the Seed Bomb. If we go up against a Fairy Ghost-type Pokemon like the Mimikyu, it's better to have the Shadow Claw, because Throat Chop isn't really going to do much. And even then, the Mimikyu is situational, because it does have less than 100 base speed. So if we are running the Jolly Nature Linoone with full speed investment, then that means we can find the outspeeds on Mimikyu, but then we have to break through the Disguise, can't use the extreme speed, so it's going to be onto that Shadow Claw, and Shadow Claw is where the damage is going to get serious. But then looking at like the Mimikyu damage calculations, you know, Throat Chop, even though it's a neutral hit, it's still enough to KO the Mimikyu, and that's going to be like one of the only neutral weirdness things that's happening. And the main reason why we're running Throat Chop is just because extreme speed will not connect. It does not affect Ghost-type Pokemon, so it doesn't matter what Ghost-type Pokemon is there. Throat Chop's going to do crazy damage, Shadow Claw's going to do crazy damage. And at the Timid Nature, we're not outspeeding all the ghosts. Like Gengar still gets outspeeds against us, Frostlass is still going to get outspeeds against us, but anything that we do outspeed, yeah, like that's kind of it. We're not using Throat Chop to cut the opponent's ability to use sound-based moves. We're just using Throat Chop because it's the dark coverage that we need against ghosts. So maybe it is better in that situation, because Shadow Claw, it's fishing for crits. Doesn't really matter too much. As you can see against Mimikyu, it's still going to be the neutral setup, and even against the Gardevoir. So Gardevoir, some of the Pokemon's like, well, Throat Chop is neutral, however, it doesn't matter. Also, that was Timid instead of Jolly. So Throat Chop, still big damage. Seed Bomb, still big damage. Also, Gardevoir, you get to use Extreme Speed against it anyways, so that's something. And maybe the Jolly Nature might have a little bit of extra oomph behind it, so let's get rid of the EVs right there. So yeah. Hyper Voice, that's a KO with a Gardevoir. We need to make sure we're outspeeding, we're using the extreme speed or something like that. We can also look at a Tapu Pokemon. So Tapu Lele, going to be problematic, and also maybe another reason to run Jolly. That they go Tapu Lele into a Pokemon that has less than 100 base speed. Well, if you already have that extreme speed setup going for you, that means it kind of doesn't matter what you want, and you should be good to go. And as long as it's not a Scarf Lele, so we get Choice Specs Lele, and even then, the Throat Chop still finds enough to KO, despite it being that neutral hit. Now, Shadow Claw, again, it's going to help. Like, if there's a bulky Mimikyu, there's a bulky Lele, you just want that thing one-shot. You want it gone and out of the way. So that could also be a position where you might want to run Shadow Claw, just because, like, those very weird situations that we get into, Throat Chop, we're not using it for secondary effect. but it does have that fairy resist that could hurt us in certain matchups. So a little bit of food for thought right there. We have the Garchomp. So Garchomp, with the max hit point investment, does not KO us on a Life Orb Earthquake, which is actually pretty substantial, and Garchomp in that weird 102 speed will find a way of outspeeding us. But I mean, like, what happens if we're Jolly Nature? Well, we actually still one-shot Garchomp with an extreme speed. Like, that's how crazy the Linoone gets. You just outspeed. It doesn't matter if it's Scarfed. You just get that extreme speed in there, and then it's going to be the KO, but only if Linoone is set up. So I feel like that's the main theme of this video. Only if Linoone is set up, and also it's going to be taking damage in a lot of situations, so if it isn't getting the outspeed either against like a ghost type Pokemon or something, going to be vulnerable, so its sweeping potential can be limited, and that's kind of like the big trade-off. For the most part, if you want the freest setup ever, you want to use Linoone as a lead. A lot of people, they want to go for a Sticky Web, they want to go for a Stealth Rocks. They might just have a Pokemon that's trying to do like Calm Mind or some kind of other shenanigans, and then that's your in. That means Linoone is just like, yes, I'm going to get my Belly Drum, full health, or they don't lead their strongest Pokemon. You know, they lead something that aims for 2-hit KOs. They lead something that tags damage and then tries to build momentum for the team, and Linoone will be able to survive that and then have them max out on the extreme speed. The problem with that, though,